My name is Carl Anthony, and I work in the automotive industry in Detroit. Sometimes that work encompasses future vehicle technology, and that's what we talk about here, for the most part anyway. This is AutoVision News Radio. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Wherever you are in the world, welcome and thank you for joining us. We are live at AutoSens Brussels 2023 from the Autoworld Museum, where we are surrounded by the history of the automobile while simultaneously embracing its future. AutoSens is many things: a twice-yearly conference and exhibition focused on the latest advancements in ADAS and autonomous driving. It's a comprehensive content hub with training module courses and a video library. But perhaps most importantly, it's a global community of automotive and technology thought leaders who are on the cutting edge of innovation. On a cold day in February 2017, I met Rob Stead, Managing Director of Sense Media, the organizers of the AutoSens conference, for the first time over Skype. That year, AutoSens was looking to launch its first U.S. event in Detroit, which did come to fruition in May 2017. At the time, AutoVision News didn't exist, and we were in the process of building up Automoblog, so it wasn't my full-time job then like it is today. In early 2017, I was on the auto show circuit with FCA, this is before Stellantis, and I was due to be at the Cleveland Auto Show later in the afternoon after speaking with Rob over Skype. Rob gave me the rundown of AutoSens and its focus on having a strong technical agenda centered on ADAS and autonomous driving, and I was hooked. Automoblog signed on as a media partner, and away we went, and I've been part of the AutoSens community ever since. I remember driving that afternoon down to Cleveland from Detroit, and I remember thinking to myself that AutoSens was something special. I also remember thinking that how happy I was that somebody else had paid attention to Automoblog and thought that we were worth being a media partner, because at the time Automoblog was still very small. I had no idea that it would turn into this long, not just working relationship, but friendship as well. And so, as part of AutoSens Brussels 2023, I sat down with Rob here at the Autoworld Museum, and he recalled fondly the early days of AutoSens.
Yeah, it brings back some memories, and the last 8 years have flown by really quickly. So, I think in one way, walking into this museum was part of the inspiration. I had been working with digital imaging companies and organizing conferences before Sense Media existed for around another 8 years before that. But I walked into this museum and I could immediately visualize the kind of conference that we could run here. The scale and the ambition wasn't something that was possible with the company I was working for, and so I decided, if I'm going to make this happen, I'm going to have to do it myself. And yeah, that was the inspiration for Sense Media, and we ran our first AutoSens in September 2016 here. That was so successful that there was demand for the US conference very quickly afterwards. That was then scheduled for May. So we spoke, ahead of that. I mean, we would normally take 12, 18 months to plan a conference, and we went from September to running it in May. But it was great. It got us off to a really good start. It was nice to have AutoSens presence on both sides of the Atlantic, and things have just really gone from from success to success and scaled up from there. So yeah, the beginning of an important journey. Obviously a bump in the road with the pandemic that we all had to innovate to survive. But since September 2021, we've been back here in Brussels. Last year was our biggest ever conference, and we've had 4 events this year spun out of that original AutoSens event. So yeah, lots has happened, lots of water under the bridge, but exciting things to come as well, I think.
If you have been to an AutoSens, you may recognize the tagline, "For engineers, by engineers." As the AutoSens community has grown over the years, that mantra is as strong as ever.
We wanted to make sure this event was as useful as possible, as valuable as possible for the community that we serve. We don't create any technology in automotive ourselves. We are here to help and support the whole supply chain that are doing that. And what I found before setting up Sense Media, what I found worked well was when you have this sense of community and openness and collaboration. In the end, no individual company can win this race by themselves. No individual company can go and transform an industry. We have to work together, and that involves communication and understanding and listening. So from the beginning, we've taken the approach of listening to the engineering community, creating something that is what they want. And I think that's resonated. It helps on-site. We set the tone at the beginning of the plenary as well, and get some networking going. There are other meetings that are very high-level strategic meetings. There are academic meetings. I mean, one of our good partners is the electronic imaging event that takes place in the Bay Area in January every year. And I think those high-level strategic meetings have their place and function. The same with the really deep academic type conferences. But I feel we occupy that middle ground. And so we're looking at the day-to-day challenges that the engineers are facing who are building systems for ADAS or for in-cabin monitoring. And we're trying to address those bottlenecks, help them improve efficiencies in the processes they're working on. The big picture strategy is the context, and we do engage with academia as well, but we're in the middle of the heart of what's going on and what impacts engineers on a day-to-day basis.
A hallmark feature of every AutoSens is the robust technical agenda, combined with a full exhibition of the latest innovations. Whether on the stage or on the exhibition floor, a key topic of discussion at every AutoSens are the latest industry trends.
Wow, big question. There's been a lot come and go. I think if I cast my mind back to 2015, 2016, when we started thinking about this, we were in the middle of a big period of hype about autonomous vehicles. Lots of OEM executives had made big promises about when we'd all be driving around in robo-taxis. And so I think the main thing that I've seen over the last nearly 10 years now is a broader recognition in the whole supply chain that this is a very, very difficult challenge. And so the hype has passed. There are still lots of engineers working and making great progress and really advancing the technologies at pace. But the size of the task is bigger than some people maybe considered it to be back in those days. But along the way, when you break that down into the individual challenges of there's improving sensors. And when I say improving them, I mean improving the performance, but also improving their robustness, improving manufacturing processes, helping to drive down costs, because we know automotive is a very sensitive market. How do those components and sensors all communicate with each other, whether that's down to the interconnects, the strategy around the architecture. There are so many complicated facets, and I think you see a lot of progress in all of them. Fast forward to now, the big topic of the moment is chiplets. So this new way of thinking about how we design our control circuits, our semiconductor to chips to be customized to the specific application. And so the idea of having a modular approach rather than having to have customized and produced and manufactured designs for each individual buyer. This is, still a fairly new idea. People have been talking about it for maybe the last 2 years, and that's from the early days of discussion. So it's a very fresh topic. We've covered it in our conferences and will continue to do so. And I think many people in the industry see that as one of the most important things that can happen, that can help drive progress over the next 5, 10, and more years.
In March 2023, Sense Media launched its inaugural InCabin event at the Scottsdale Center for the Performing Arts in Scottsdale, Arizona. InCabin supports the global community of automotive interior specialists by providing, like AutoSens, a best-in-class event experience. My dearest friend Sarah Sargent of Sense Media was instrumental in launching the inaugural event and then the follow-up in-cabin event in Brussels in June of 2023. And Sarah, if you're listening, I'm proud of you, my friend. In-cabin topics were always part of the AutoSens agenda, but over time it was becoming apparent that perhaps in-cabin needed to be its own conference.
The short answer is we ran out of space in the agenda. So we have a pretty big agenda here, in both in Brussels and in Detroit. We have plenary sessions and then 3 parallel conference tracks for AutoSens. So there's a lot of presentations each edition. However, we can't cover every theme, every event. So we have to cycle these around. Sometimes there's more coverage on LiDAR innovations. The next event, maybe not so much, but we're featuring other topics and themes. But what happened was we saw more and more interest and innovation coming in the in-cabin space. So not just for driver monitoring, but for occupant monitoring, other applications for safety and comfort, and even in infotainment around the in-cabin sensing. In the end, we didn't have space to do that justice within the AutoSens agenda, and so we decided to spin out a new conference. There are many connecting factors between the in-cabin sensing and the exterior-facing sensing. The sensors are not exactly the same, but we're still using cameras and LiDARs, cameras and radars, some different kinds of sensors, so time-of-flight sensors, again, which are all related, really. The technology is related, but time-of-flight sensors use more inside. But the fundamental challenges of image optimization, efficiency, driving down costs, keeping energy consumption low, they're all connected. And so we've developed these 2 very closely related but individual communities. The first conference, it seems like a long time ago, but was this time last year. We had our first edition of InCabin, which ran immediately after the AutoSens conference here in Brussels. Since then, we've run 2 more in-cabin events, one in Phoenix in March and one here in Brussels just in June this year, all of which were pretty much a sellout. There's so much to talk about, and it's a relatively new area with lots of innovation as well. So yeah, we're very pleased. We've got these 2 closely related but individual communities with their own specific use cases.
At AutoSens Brussels 2023, it was announced that AutoSens and InCabin will be co-locating in 2024. AutoSens and InCabin USA will be held in Detroit on May 21st through the 23rd, 2024, while AutoSens and InCabin Europe will be held in Barcelona on October 8th through the 10th, 2024. The simultaneous events are expected to bring expanded business opportunities, tailored content, and a bigger, cutting-edge exhibition.
They've both been successful in the last 12 months individually, but listening to the feedback from the market, looking at trends in the world, we feel very strongly, and our research tells us that bringing 1 + 1 = 3 really. We'll create one large exhibition with 2 zones, one for each brand. Bring all of the conference content together and have maybe up to 6 simultaneous technical tracks running. But everybody who attends one conference will have access to the other, and they can interchange and just create this added value that way. For us, it means that we're able to be more efficient and more sustainable. We'll have 1 set of traveling per year. We can make some economies of scale, which helps us to reinvest, back in the event and in growing the community. I think as well for the audience out there, it's one time, it's one place, maximum value from one week in Detroit in May, and then we'll be back in Europe again in around this time of year next year.
According to the European Commission, the automotive sector provides direct and indirect jobs to nearly 14 million Europeans, representing 6.1% of total EU employment. 2.6 million people work in the direct manufacturing of motor vehicles, and that represents 8.5% of EU employment in manufacturing. Likewise, the European Commission supports the introduction and development of connected and autonomous mobility applications through policy initiatives, developing standards, co-funding, and developing legislation when and where needed. As AutoSens and InCabin co-locate in Barcelona in 2024, the European automotive market will be a key area of focus.
Brussels has been a great location for us for the last 8 years. Very good international links. So we have people, whether the conference is in Europe or in the States, we have a very global audience. So the travel links here are fantastic from the States and from Asia as well. We welcome many delegates from Korea, from China, from Japan, Israel as well as another popular source of people coming. So the events are global, but obviously here we are close to the heart of a lot of manufacturing in Europe. We have a healthy attendance from Germany, from Spain, from France, and the supply chain here is also very strong. Whether you're talking about sensors or semiconductors or the software and the design processes that go into all of these things. So the industry is a bit more spread in Europe versus the concentration in Detroit. But it's indeed a very healthy market, part of the global sector, and the event's been very strong here.
With the conclusion of AutoSens here in Brussels for 2023, and as we head into co-location for AutoSens and InCabin in 2024, I asked Rob what he's most proud of.
I'm proud of my team, mostly. We're 16 people now, which is a bit mind-boggling in a way. When I think back to the first conference here in 2016, I think there were 4 of us on site running around like crazy people trying to hold everything together. It's very nice to have more people now and be able to divide up some of those tasks. But I think we've got a fantastic team. Everybody works so hard, and is really committed and dedicated to making our events as good as they can be. And it's not just the conferences as well. As you know, we have the Academy, the online training course that runs year round. We've got our online library of content from all of our conferences in the past in AutoSens Plus, and we're out and about throughout the year getting involved in other projects as well. So I'm proud of the team's commitment and dedication. I also believe that we're really making an impact. I've seen a number of tech startups who joined us as a small organization, and through some of the connections they've made here have attracted investment, gone on, sold their businesses. I see lots of other progress in terms of impactful technologies that are making it into production vehicles, which are helping to save lives. So, we're a technical conference. We're a small piece of the picture, but our ultimate goal within this community is safety and saving lives on the road. And I think now having these 2 communities with their independent focus in AutoSens and InCabin, that gives us even better opportunity to contribute towards that and play whatever small part we can in making the roads a safer place.
To learn more about AutoSens and InCabin and the automotive industry in Europe, see the links in the show notes. AutoVision News Radio is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and more. From the Autoworld Museum in Brussels, Belgium, I'm Carl Anthony, AutoVision News Radio.